Does Shedeur Sanders get wrongfully hated on by his own head coach? Is he being sabotaged by his own head coach?
Shedeur Sanders just spoke out about his head coach, Kevin Stefanski, in regards to being sabotaged. Now, Shedeur Sanders had a very interesting reaction to the question. The first response was a very interesting response.
All your supporters out there say that Kevin Stefanski was sabotaging you.
So you just want to start trouble, huh?
No, I want to ask you what your relationship with him is.
Yeah, well, what people do outside the building isn't really in my control. It's not in my power, so I don't. You act like I go out there and tell them to do whatever. You know, that's not nothing I can control or nothing I could do. But overall, you know, I'm just happy to be here.
There is a growing belief around the NFL world that the Cleveland Browns aren't just struggling. They are wasting a potential franchise quarterback because of one major problem: their head coach's offensive decisions. Many fans insist that the real controversy isn't whether Kevin Stefanski hates Shedeur Sanders, but whether the Browns' offensive system is actively holding back every quarterback who steps into it, including Sanders. And the deeper you look, the harder it becomes to ignore the signs. For months, debates have raged across social media, sports talk shows, and fan communities. Is Shedeur Sanders being sabotaged? Is there bias inside the Browns organization? Or is the truth far more complicated and far more concerning?
You know, that's not nothing I can control or nothing I could do. But overall, you know, I'm just happy to be here. Coach Stefanski, you've been coaching since I got here, and you've been doing a very great job, you know, with everything that's going on.
But what is your relationship like with him and when we don't see you guys together?
Definitely like a coach. You know, he tells me what I need to do on and off the field. We definitely grown.
When you look closely, two completely different narratives emerge. On one hand, everything suggests that the relationship between the coach and Sanders is completely normal, even positive. On the other hand, the decisions being made on the field, the play calling, the personnel choices, and the development process look like a blueprint for holding back a quarterback's growth. And this contradiction is exactly why the conversation refuses to die.
He's a great kid, and whether it's a following that he's earned, I mean, that's something that he's done a great job of interacting with fans. And but he is a great kid. You guys will get to know him more. He's working like crazy, just like all the guys. He's another young man. These rookies, you know, my office is downstairs. As they got to walk by my office as they come in. They come in early, and Shedeur, just like all those guys, he's in there early. He's getting his work done. So he's working really hard. I like everything there is about.
Publicly, the relationship between Shedeur Sanders and Kevin Stefanski has always seemed solid. Long before any controversy began, Stefanski spoke very highly of Sanders. He called him a hard worker, a great kid, someone who showed up every day with a commitment to getting better. These weren't typical throwaway lines. These were the words of a coach trying to build up a young quarterback. Stefanski and Sanders were spending time together every morning to go over film, work on mechanics, and discuss concepts. For a head coach, one of the busiest jobs in sports, that level of time investment is not normal. Coaches don't meet daily with players they don't believe in. They don't personally commit hours to someone they want to see fail. Teammates reinforce this picture. Myles Garrett talked about Sanders arriving early, studying, and taking the game seriously.
Sanders, as a veteran, what's impressed you the most on how he's approached the game?
All the time he takes, showing up early. Coach's office is easily seen when you walk in the building, and almost every morning you see him in there, talking through plays, talking through schemes with coach, and making sure that he's ready for his moment when he gets called up. And I appreciate that level of maturity.
Even Sanders himself kept things professional during the controversy. In interviews, he said he was happy in Cleveland, that his relationship with his coach was growing, and that he was focused on football, not drama. That's exactly how mature quarterbacks handle tough questions. So if all this is true, why are so many people convinced that something deeper and much worse is happening behind the scenes?
So many people have said that Kevin Stefanski has deliberately and purposefully tried to sabotage this young man's development and his growth. It's hard for me to see that. I don't know the pool of reporters, how many they got, Ocho. I mean, we would have, 15, 20, 30 guys there asking questions. It's hard for me to believe. He probably was the first one to get an opportunity to ask a question. But it's hard for me to believe that of those 25, 30 pool reporters that were there, not one person was going to ask about the relationship. Now, you look, he's mature enough because, hell, his dad.
Fans began asking, why would a team invest in a lower ceiling quarterback instead of building around a higher ceiling one? Why put energy into a long-term backup instead of a potential franchise piece? And when Gabriel struggled badly, the criticism exploded. How could a coach waste development time on a player with limited potential while underutilizing someone with far superior talent? This wasn't just favoritism to fans. It was poor resource management, poor team building, poor coaching. As this debate grew louder, another theory emerged. Not that Stefanski hated Sanders, but that Stefanski's offensive system is fundamentally broken, and every quarterback suffers because of it. The numbers support this claim. The Browns' offense has consistently ranked near the bottom of the league in key categories: yardage, scoring, efficiency, creativity, explosiveness. The team's win total over the last 2 seasons has been shockingly low, and the quarterback carousel, from starters to backups, all seem to hit the same wall: an offense that looks outdated, predictable, and extremely difficult to succeed in. Quarterbacks with promise have looked worse under this system. Quarterbacks with experience have looked uncomfortable. Even talented players have struggled to produce. This raises the real question: is Stefanski actually sabotaging players, or is his offensive philosophy simply too flawed to allow anyone to thrive? When you view the whole picture, the hate Sanders narrative becomes less convincing. There's real evidence of a coach investing time into the young quarterback. There's real support behind the scenes. But the results on the field tell a different story. A story where the offensive design, decision-making, and development strategies are holding the entire team back.
Great answer. Love Shedeur's answer.
Strong black man.
A younger Shedeur might have answered a little more childlike. This is a mature answer. It was honest enough. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a lie. He didn't come out there and say, Kevin Stefanski's been nothing but kind to me. Nah, he was just like, Stefanski been the coach since before I got here.
The question now is simple. How long can the Browns afford to let this continue? How long can they risk losing the potential of a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders because of a system that refuses to evolve? Until those questions are answered, the controversy will remain alive, and fans will continue to wonder whether the real problem in Cleveland is not the quarterback, but the offensive mind leading him.